How many games are in your collection? 20, 50, 100, 500? Do you store them on a shelf or on a hard drive? Is the mere suggestion of a digital games collection blasphemous? Is it inevitable? We'll debate the merits of physical media versus digital downloads, plus quick hits on Super Street Fighter II Turbo HD Remix and Left 4 Dead. It's the GameCritics.com podcast, and it starts right now. It is the GameCritics.com podcast for the week of December 7th, 2008. We're back from a week off, and I have to tell you, gentlemen, when recording night came around last week and we weren't doing a show, I felt this awful void in my soul, like somebody had taken a spoon and scooped out my heart. Did you feel the same way?
I did. I really missed taping the show last week, but, Thanksgiving happened, so I'm an American. I know some of you guys are Canadian, but we had to stop and celebrate and be thankful.
I'm going to ask the important question. Why a spoon?
It's just how it felt. It was like a scooping motion, and I typically don't scoop with a fork or knife.
Haven't you learned there is no spoon?
And here I was trying to get you to do the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves line.
You're going to have to help me with that. What was the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves line?
Prince of Nottingham's, the Sheriff of Nottingham says, I'm going to scoop his heart out with a spoon. His cousin says, why a spoon? And the Sheriff of Nottingham says, because it's dull, it'll hurt more.
Brilliant. Brilliant. We should start over.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
Well, gentlemen, for the people listening, we should identify who the other three members of the show are. It's the editors of GameCritics.com. First up, it's Mike Bracken. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Tim. How's it going?
It's going well. It's great to have you back for another show.
It's great to be back. Still playing a lot of World of Warcraft. Hit level 80 on Thanksgiving morning. Got into Naxxramas. Got some epic loot. Life is good.
Life is good. I also hit level 80, but I did it about a week after you. It was just a couple days ago. It feels good, but feel a little emptiness now. It's hard to prioritize my World of Warcraft goals now.
You have to start raiding. It's all about raiding once you hit 80. So just get in Naxxramas and get it going. You'll be good again.
My guild has set a January 6th start date for raiding, so I've got a month to kill. Maybe I'll read a book or something. I don't know.
Wow, that's a long time.
I know. It is a long time. Well, next up, we haven't seen him since episode 2 of this podcast. It seems like a lifetime ago. Mr. Daniel Weissenberger.
Hello, everybody. I promise this is the last time I'll stop the show dead.
Oh, wait, it just happened again.
Well, that was the last time.
Oh, that was the last time. All right, very
exactly.
Good. Very good. And finally, rounding out the Canadian portion of the introductions, it's Mr. David Stone. Hello, David.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
It's great to have you back. I think it's been 3 episodes since you've been on, if I'm not mistaken.
It's been a little while, and in the meantime, I'm looking at my windowsill, and literally a half-inch sheet of ice has crusted along it. It is cold.
Yeah, I thought it was cold here in Chicago, but then I looked up at the map and saw what you guys are enduring up north. It's brutal. It's brutal, and it's only just beginning.
I know, but it's also worrying me that I do have a half-inch sheet of ice on the inside of my house. So, kind of getting a little worried about that when it's barely December.
I don't envy you, sir.
Gee, Dan, I think I inherited your ability to stop a show dead.
I had to pass it on to someone.
It may just be my general inability to hold a casual conversation. That's probably more of what it is. But the reason for that is because I'm so focused on this jam-packed show that we have lined up for you today. Our topic is going to be buying our games in the future. Are we going to do it with physical copies, digital copies? What do we think is going to happen? What do we want to happen? It's very exciting. I know we all have some strong opinions on it, but before we get to that, we'll do some quick hits. And for this, I'm going to turn it over to Dan. Now, Dan, when you were last on, it was our Halloween episode, and you spoke very eloquently about your passion for zombie games. You remember that?
I do.
I know our audience remembers it. And since you were on, we've seen the release of one of the most hyped zombie games of all time, Left 4 Dead. Dan, have you played some Left 4 Dead?
I have played some Left 4 Dead. I've played all of Left 4 Dead 8 or 9 times. And I've got to say, how shall I put this in the most diplomatic and delicate way possible? It's lucky for Left 4 Dead that it's the only first-person zombie shooter out there, because that's all it's got going for it.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I was not satisfied with the experience of Left 4 Dead. I mean, it seems like it'd be the easiest thing in the world to do. People like shooting zombies, you do a zombie first-person shooter. Yet, we've had, decent, high-quality first-person shooters for 11, 12 years now, and there's never been a zombie-themed one.
It seems to be very well received. So I guess...
It is.
Is it... What are other people seeing that you're not seeing, or why are people looking at it incorrectly?
Well, it's not that they're looking at it incorrectly or seeing something they're not seeing. I see what they love about it, and frankly, you know what? When I review it, I'm probably going to give it like a 6 or a 6.5. I mean, it's not a terrible game. I mean, I don't want to give that impression. It's just there's almost no game.
Oh, please elaborate, because I have not played yet, and I'm very curious because I am also a big zombie shooter fan. So this is the first negatives I've heard about this game, so I am totally intrigued.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem with the game is that you're supposed to play it over and over again. Now, I mean, I haven't reviewed a lot of these multiplayer-focused games you're supposed to play over and over again. I know that. I mean, I tend to go for the single-player games myself. And honestly, I loved getting together with a couple of friends online and blasting away zombies. I mean, the core mechanic of the game, hordes of zombies rush at you and you shoot them, is fun. But beyond a horde of zombies running down a hall and you blasting the way at them with shotguns and Uzis, there is absolutely nothing to the game. Like, there's no upgradable weapons, there's no upgradable perks for characters, there's nothing to unlock. Once you've played the first entire level, you've seen everything the game has to offer, but that's not even true. Once you've played the demo, you have seen everything that game has to offer.
I actually had a question. I was curious when you mentioned that about none of the characters being upgradable. I don't know because I haven't played it at all, unfortunately. But are they even different? I mean, I know there are 4 characters you can choose from. They're not specialized or anything like that. They're all just
none
basic.
Of them have any other abilities of any kind. They're all the exact same character. It's just a different model that you can't see. So it's a different hand model when you're holding a gun.
So why do you think the world is going crazy for it? If is this just a case of the Emperor's new clothes?
Oh, it's not a case of the Emperor's new clothes. I mean, it's not like just the media is saying it's good and everyone's agreeing with it. Like I said, everyone wanted to shoot zombies, and this is the first... And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the only game out there that is dedicated to zombie shooting. I mean, this is it.
No, there was another game a few years ago. It was made by the guy who left Bungie. Stubbs the Zombie.
You played as a zombie in Stubbs the Zombie.
Oh.
Killing regular people, yeah.
Sorry, it was just first person in zombie. It's the only thing that came to mind.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Like, that's why people love this game, because people want to shoot. I mean, it's not an accident that there's a zombie character, a zombie kind of monster in just about every video game out there. Every first-person shooter out there, people love shooting zombies. But this is the first time anyone has made an entire game. And the desire for that has been so intense that people are just loving shooting zombies. But in, a year and a half, 2 years tops, there's going to be a much better zombie game out there, so going nuts for this one is going to look pretty silly in retrospect.
So if all I wanted is an arcade experience, I want to kill half an hour, grab some friends, blow up some zombies, it sounds like this game is perfect. But if
absolutely.
But if I want story, any depth beyond that, it's not here.
Well, what really fascinates me is not only is there no story or narrative of any kind, but there's no freedom to, and they don't even do the bare minimum, as I was saying, of what you expect from a first-person shooter. You can't modify your character's appearance at all. Like, half of the thing that I find people love in online shooter games or even online multiplayer games is being able to unlock skins for their character and outfit them with different heads and different jackets and, play dress-up to show off to their other friends online. This game, you're stuck with the 4 basic models, which seems kind of restrictive given that there's no story or really character to them.
One of the major selling points is the AI director, which, as I understand it, and I've played the demo on the Xbox once, so I had one experience, but my understanding is the AI director is supposed to provide a different experience every single time, that it adapts to the way you play, it adapts to whether you are using teamwork or not using teamwork. Did you find that to be the case when you were playing through the multiple playthroughs?
Not especially, no. I mean, you do notice that there will be different concentrations of enemies throughout the map, but because zombies always respond the same way to the same stimulus, it's really minor, the effect it's going to have on your gameplay. I mean, the only real effect, there's only 3 real effects it can have. Where your stronger weapons are. I didn't mention this earlier, but there's only 4 weapons. There's only 6 different weapons throughout the entire game, throughout all the levels, and you start with pistols, shotguns, and Uzis. And then at some point halfway through your trip through each map, you're going to be able to get access to assault rifles, better shotguns, and a sniper rifle. And the only thing that really changes from playthroughs are where the weapons are located and where the boss characters are located. Beyond that, the AI director has little to no effect on your gameplay, except if you stand around waiting too long, he'll send a wave of zombies at you.
Sounds like I'd have more fun with House of the Dead.
Well, I gotta say, I just got House of the Dead 3 for the Wii, and I was definitely having more fun playing that with friends than playing Left 4 Dead with friends.
Well, there you have it. Dan, thanks for your thoughts on Left 4 Dead. Hopefully we'll have another zombie game at some point. Perhaps it will be the one that satisfies you.
Oh, I'm praying.
It'll happen someday. I have confidence, man. I do.
Resident Evil 5.
Resident Evil... Oh, there you go. We just have
a
couple more months for RE5. Is that a February release?
Yep. Or no, March now.
Oh, it got moved?
Yeah, March 7th or 14th or something.
It'll be here before we know it. And it's not like we don't have other games to play in the interim.
That's true.
Other games such as something I was playing this week. I took a break from Fallout and Wrath of the Lich King to purchase Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix. I got into Street Fighter, and I'll just give you a little bit of background, and I know you guys have different Street Fighter experiences than I have had, but I got into Street Fighter watching older kids playing in arcades, and just being blown away by these giant sprites. It was like, I was a fan of Karate Champ. I played a lot of Karate Champ on the old Apple IIe, and I thought, well, God, this is the next generation modern Karate Champ. But we had giant characters, iconic characters, all the great special moves, and when I finally got a chance to play it myself, you could walk up to a Street Fighter machine and at least hold your own, because it was kind of like, you remember the old commercials for the Othello board game? It was like a minute to learn, but a lifetime to master. A lifetime
to master.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That's kind of how I view Street Fighter, because you don't have that many things that you can do in Street Fighter, but there's an incredible depth there. And I did the first part, the minute to learn, but I never really got into the lifetime to master part. And as a consequence, I'm a terrible Street Fighter player. I am bloody awful at it, but I love it. I just love it. Of course, I try to only play against people who are even worse than me so that I can feel satisfied. But when you start talking about tournament play and frame counting, I am completely at a loss. So this game was really all about the nostalgia for me, and from my perspective, it is, I think, the definitive translation of this game. Now, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to play it or not, but I think what the developer Backbone Entertainment has done on this is just unbelievable. It's a stunning, gorgeous, dead-on, spot-on recreation of the Street Fighter I know and love. Have any of you guys had a chance to check it out or have some history with this?
Well, I'll pipe in on this one because I definitely have a big history with Street Fighter 2. I'm one of the few idiots who actually went and bought a 3DO back in the day simply because it was the only home system that had Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo on it. And I'm actually going to dissent. I have this on the PS3 because I couldn't even begin to fathom trying to play it with a 360 controller.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that, but go ahead.
And I actually have to say, even, 15 years later, I think the 3DO version is still the definitive version of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, in spite of the remixed graphics, in spite of the remixed gameplay. I still find the 3DO has a soundtrack on it. I'm a musician, as a lot of you guys know, so music is really important to me in the game. The 3DO version has a soundtrack that has not yet been matched in terms of quality since it was made. I find that the HD Remix's soundtrack is completely below par. I'm thankful they got rid of the, how do I put this nicely, the campy announcer. I'm glad they changed him. I find that some of the changes that Backbone have done have been interesting. For example, with Ryu, I can do a fake fireball to try to psych out an opponent for whatever that's worth, but again, it doesn't really add a lot. The depth of options, though, I mean, these guys are all about frame counting. For those who don't know about frame counting, the idea is that every single super move is comprised up of a certain number of frames, and within each frame, there are certain gameplay possibilities. Like the first 3 frames of Ryu's Dragon Punch, he is completely invincible. But you can tweak that in this game. It's absolutely amazing. I think there's like 8 pages of depth to what moves can be cancelled, which moves can be countered specifically against somebody else. M. Bison, when he stomps on your head, how does he fly off, at what angle, how many pixels? I mean, it's utterly amazing. These guys know this game inside and out. But somehow, in spite of all these HD graphics, the 3DO version, I don't know. I was playing it with the Super Nintendo controller plugged in. It played smoother. The graphics, even though they were standard def, looked better than the arcade. Like I said, soundtrack was just way better. Gameplay just felt a lot cleaner and crisper than even this updated version.
I would imagine there are probably going to be very few people who have played both versions and can make that comparison, because I haven't heard anyone make that argument yet.
Well, it was a big deal at the time. It was seen to be the 3DO's only hope for becoming a mainstream system, and that it was a huge coup for Panasonic that they were able to get it. And I remember booting it up that first time and seeing the opening introduction, which, by the way, they didn't translate for this game. It's missing the awesome Akuma shadow thing and Cammy sticking her tongue out on the English countryside. It's missing the most important parts. Oh, you guys all know what I'm talking about. She's like standing looking tough, and then she sticks her tongue out for about 6 frames.
I love that you've done the frame count on Cammy's tongue. That's
oh, Jesus. I'm never going to live this one down, am I?
You mentioned not being able to imagine playing it on the Xbox 360 controller. It is brutal. That D-pad is so squishy, but the best advice I can give to anybody who's not going to go out and buy an arcade stick is remap the buttons that are assigned to the left bumper and left trigger, remap them over to the right side so that all you're doing with your left hand is trying to manipulate the D-pad. If you try to do any more than that, you will fail completely. I would say I can get probably 95% of the moves accurate on the first time, which from my playstyle is fantastic. That's all I need. I would imagine for anybody who needs more precision than that, you're going to have to go with buying a joystick.
What I find is the PlayStation controller actually does do a very good job Like I said, I got used to the 3DO's timing, so it took me a little bit of time to really come back to this one, but on the PS3, it's really clean, really easy to work with. Even some of the crazier super moves, like Guile's, charge back for 2 seconds, forward, back, forward, punch, I pull it off every single time without a problem. So if you do have a choice, I really strongly recommend the PlayStation 3 version.
Good advice, I think. Good advice. And my last thought on this, and I'm wondering what you guys think, what's the longevity of this game? With Street Fighter 4 just around the corner, are we going to see everyone abandon this for Street Fighter 4? I would think it's inevitable.
Yeah, I would be kind of surprised if they did. I mean, look at how long we've been playing Street Fighter 2 variations. Every time they've tried to upgrade to 3 or, all the variations of 3. Everybody goes back to 2. So I think everybody's going to jump to 4 for a while, but if it's not as a fantastic game, I think everybody will go back to 2.
Yeah. It could be. I think the difference between Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 3 is that Street Fighter 4 is very clearly an homage to what we loved in Street Fighter 2. The first characters they introduced were all of the original Street Fighter 2 cast. We were seeing a redone version of some of the original stages, so it does seem to be a back to that Street Fighter 2 style, but like you said, we'll see. We'll see what happens if they don't get it right. Yeah, people probably will.
Well, the producer himself actually was saying that was his goal. Was he found that a lot of people, I think I remember hearing Mike and Dan saying this earlier, that when they hit Street Fighter 3 and started to get into these weird, canceling, and you had to frame count if you wanted to have even a remote shot of winning, they just kind of stopped playing. But Street Fighter 2 is still popular to this day, so they're trying to bring people back into the fold with 4. I don't know, Mike, Dan, any thoughts on that one?
Well, that's completely true. After I got through, I got okay at 2. I mean, there was a couple of characters I could play as, but when I got into 3, and basically, if you didn't know what the length of each move was and at what point you could interrupt someone else's move, there was no point in even trying to play.
Yeah, 3 and all the different versions of 3 for me were like studying as opposed to actually playing a game, and it just wasn't fun anymore. So that's where I got out.
So, well, gentlemen, thank you very much. That'll do it for Quick Hits. When we come back, a future free of physical media. Could it happen? We'll discuss it in 30 seconds. Welcome back, and for our main topic this week, we turn to Mr. Mike Bracken.
Thanks, Tim. I was doing some surfing on the web this week and looking around at the usual sites, Kotaku, Joystick, stuff like that, and I stumbled across this interesting story, or at least it was interesting to me, that I wanted to share with everyone. Phil Harrison, who works for Atari now and used to be an executive at Sony back in the day, came out earlier this week and said that he, quote, believes physical game media will be no more. No more DVDs, no more CDs, no more video games in plastic boxes. He thinks that there's a generation of kids being born today and probably already alive who I'm pretty confident will never buy a physical media product. They will never buy a DVD, they will never buy a CD, they will never buy a game in a box. I read that and I was pretty interested in it because I'm a big game collector and a big dork and like to own things like books and CDs and video games. And the idea of downloading all my games is interesting to me. It's something, that you can already, you can start to do it through Steam and things like that. But as someone who's maybe older and maybe feels a little out of touch at the same time, the idea of downloading all my games in the future instead of going to a store and buying them and then having them on a shelf to gloat over in the privacy of my own home fills me with an unspeakable amount of dread. This story, and I know we've heard this a variation on this for a long time, that at first it was MP3s would replace CDs, which has kind of happened. The MP3 market is where a lot of people get their music now, they don't go to buy physical CDs anymore. But I just, CDs, it seems a little different to me because people don't want to buy a whole album when they want one song off of it. But a game is a whole experience, so you can't just pick and choose pieces of a game you'd want to have to play. You'd have to buy the whole thing anyway. So it just got me to thinking that I don't know if I want to live in a world where we don't buy physical games anymore. So, and then I was thinking at the same time, the logistics of this, in theory, it sounds really great. Oh, I'll just download everything and I'll put it on my hard drive and I have it whenever I want to play. But what about DRM? What about crashing hard drives? What about space? If a game is like 4 to 6 gigabytes now, I own 230 some PlayStation 2 games. That's a lot of space to have them all downloaded on one system. So I was looking at this and then the economics of it. What happens to people who work at GameStop? What happens to the people who make game packaging? All those people lose jobs because we're going to start downloading things. And basically, I just wanted to throw it out there and see what everyone else thought on this topic and see if I was alone in being a dinosaur who likes his physical media or if the rest of you guys felt the same way.
I definitely agree with you on this one, Mike. I am a huge game collector, and I think after all these years, I can finally give you a run for your money on number of games still in shrink wrap. But
that's quite a feat.
Oh, Lord. But I'm with you. I have a ton of old systems. Like, I have a Neo Geo, for God's sakes. And I love when I take out Samurai Showdown, and it takes 2 hands to hold the cartridge. There's just something wonderfully visceral about looking at the way the technology was physically constructed. And, I mean, let's be honest. We all own original NESs, right? How wonderful does it feel when you blow on that cartridge, stick it in, you have the crossing your fingers as you press the power button, and then it doesn't blink?
Yeah.
And it actually works?
It's a great moment.
There's a rush that you just can't get. Now, I can certainly see the other flip side, and I'd like to play devil's advocate for just a second, which is that Mike, you were talking about the GameStop employees. Well, first of all, as long as GameStop's not sponsoring us, is it really such a bad thing if there are fewer of those guys around? And also for the fact that with the way the secondhand market's going up, there's a big story about this too. Developers don't receive a dime from used game sales. The cool things about this is that now the developers will always see money from every single potential game sale, which is fantastic. You don't have to deal with the GameStop used game ripoff, and developers receive proper royalties. You also don't have to worry about standing out in the cold, and on a night like tonight, I can definitely relate to that one. You don't have to worry about standing out in the cold for a midnight launch for a game that might be physically sold out. Isn't it nice that you don't have to worry about that anymore? That actually kind of appeals to me.
Yeah, there are definitely things that appeal to me. I think the thing that appeals to me most is that the developers would get their proper royalties. I know that the used game market is a big issue right now with people, buying used games and where all this profit is going to GameStop, where they'll give you $10 for a game that they turn around and sell for $54. So I'm totally against them doing that. But at the same time, I like the option of used games. Part of my joy as a collector is the quest to find rare games in pristine condition and the big search. And it just seems like, man, if we go the route of all physical downloads, all downloads instead
Digital
of physical
downloads.
games, that we are going to we'll lose that. It'll just be just like clicking through on eBay.
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'll let Den speak up in a second. I'm sorry that we're so ravenous about this topic here. But no, you're talking, again, it's my one claim to fame. I'm the idiot who went onto eBay who found, for $150, a copy of Castlevania Dracula X for the PC Engine, mint spine card and everything.
Oh, wow.
So I totally know. Oh no, that is my holy grail right now.
That's incredible.
Mainly because I'll never do anything like that again. I'm married. She won't let me.
I would never describe myself as a video game, collector, but, I got a bunch, and I think the only real collecting I do is I can't see a copy of Dead to Rights without buying it.
So you could burn it?
No, I have an obsession with that game going on 6 years now. I just love it too much. Yeah, I will never stop loving Dead to Rights, and I own like 7 copies of it, bought at $5 each. But I gotta say,
does it play differently disc to disc, Dan?
Oh God, yes. You always discover something new every time you play Dead to Rights. The issue is, and they make wonderful stocking stuffers come Christmas time.
I'm waiting for my copy still.
Ditto. Dude, come down the street.
The thing that, and I gotta say, I hate to sound like the cheap one, but I'm not a video game collector. I mean, the only time I ever go to eBay to get anything rare is because I've never found a copy of Trapped in an actual store. You know, I actually had to buy that online, and I gotta say, for me, buying a new video game is kind of a rare occurrence. And maybe it's just that I'm cheap, but frankly, I think I'm of the belief that, you know, there is a maximum amount of money media should cost, and that amount of money is $35. So I honestly could not tell you actually, I can tell you the last time I bought a new video game, and that was the Orange Box.
Wow, that's been a while.
Well, you're bang on about the money thing, too, man, because if you look at what Microsoft does with their hard drives, I mean, 120 gigabyte hard drive costs what?
It's $175 on their website, and a hell of a lot more if you have to buy it in a store.
I mean, how is that helping anything for digital distribution?
Yeah, and what does memory cost now? It's like, 30 cents a gigabyte. It's ridiculous that they would be charging that much.
And the reality is, we talk about space considerations. We have now on desktop computers, terabyte hard drives are relatively common now. That could store 150, 200 PlayStation 2 games. It is theoretically possible that in 5 years we would have all the space we could possibly ever dream of to store this stuff.
The thing about that is, though, as I remember 10, 15 years ago, a friend telling me he had a computer at college that they used that had a gigabyte of storage on it, and we thought that was so massive that we'd never be able to fill it up. And then, now, it's nothing.
I think that idea of having terabyte hard drives that I just, get games for would be great if there was some kind of, if we had a fiber optic network to actually get these games to us. But right now, I mean, it took me 2 hours just to update my Xbox with the new Xbox experience.
Yeah.
And that thing was, 200 megabytes?
Yeah.
If I had to download an 8 gigabyte game, I would have to leave it on all night. And I don't have particularly, it's not like I'm on dial-up. I have the fastest I can get without upgrading to a T1 line here in Ottawa. So,
and that brings up another point, which is there's something here that's out of the game industry's control, and that is that a lot of ISPs are now capping bandwidth. If you're on Comcast, you've got 250 gigabytes per month, and that's it. Your internet just shuts down if you go over that. And if you take into account all the YouTube videos and torrent files and Rock Band tracks that you're downloading, you could very easily hit that. You start downloading 6 gig Xbox games, and you're definitely going to hit that.
I dream of a world where I had 250 gigabytes a month to download. I'm on a little something called Bell, and they give you 30 gigabytes a month.
Oh, my Lord.
And
well,
the
Dan,
one good, yeah?
I was just going to say,
Please.
Bell is the one company who I was able to actually have them pay me to leave. Because I had so many tech support issues with them that I racked up so many credits that by the time I left, they legally had to give me a $75 check because my account had $75 extra in credit over and above everything else after I'd closed it down.
I'll be off it soon, but honestly, I'm going to be off it soon, but I mean, we're at a place where they honestly think 30 gigabytes a month is a fair, amount to let you download for $35 a month, which is ridiculous. And they charge you $1 per gigabyte you go over that. Now, luckily, that caps out at 30 gigabytes of extra, and anything you go over that, they can't legally charge you anymore, which is nice, but it essentially means I have to pay $65 a month for spotty, slow internet. So how on earth am I expected to download all of my games in that way? I just think the idea of it is ridiculous, and that's not even counting, I mean, I'm lucky, having, God forbid this happened to me, but I had a friend whose Wii died on him, and he lost every single thing he downloaded.
that's a concern of mine as well. I mean, what happens when a console dies and then you have to replace it? If I own 200 games, I'm going to have to download 200 games again from scratch. That's just doesn't seem very practical.
Even if there's not a payment issue, just the time you would have to spend downloading that again.
But let's talk about Steam as the distribution model, because really, let's say that happens. Your hard drive dies, and the 200 games you had on there are now gone. With Steam, all of those games are tied to a username and password, so they are technically all available to you at any time at no additional charge. How many of those games do you actually have to have physically on your hard drive? Isn't it enough that they're tied to your Steam account and available?
Well, this is the argument against for having a physical media, because I have 12 systems currently hooked up to my TV. I don't really play my Saturn all that much, but boy howdy, when I want to hear some weird Japanese guy screaming Daytona rolling start, I want to have it now.
Yeah. It's again, you'd still would have to go back, and if it's tied to your account, you would still have to download it again, which could be hours.
I mean, I hate to be part of the generation who likes instant gratification, but when I want to play a game, I want to play it, and I got a drawer full of games for 4 different systems. When I want to play any of them, I can just put them in and play them.
But I think for PC games, there's definitely something here. A couple weeks ago, I wanted to play Dreamfall: The Longest Journey, which was an adventure game from about 3 years ago. And it's 6 CDs. And I pulled the game out of a box in my garage, and I looked at it, and I said, God, this is going to be quite an investment. 6 CDs. I wonder if this is on Steam. I go to Steam. It's $10. I said, and I bit the bullet. I put in my credit card number. I spent $9.99. I downloaded Dreamfall, and I was playing within, 30 minutes or so. Fully patched, fully compatible with my system, completely ready to go anytime I want it. And from now until the end of Valve, I will have Dreamfall available to me to play.
But that's an inherent difference between PC gaming and console gaming, and I think there is a very big distinction in this argument. I could definitely see a lot of people... I mean, I have to admit, I am not a World of Warcraft guy, but did you guys actually go out to a store and buy Wrath of the Lich King, or did you just download it?
No, I went and bought it.
I went and bought it, too.
I was at we were at midnight launch, because we're dorks.
Wow, way to kill my argument here, guys.
Like, was there an action figure or a map in there or something? Or?
No.
Yeah, did you get a physical thing just for having the disc, or could you have just downloaded it just as easily?
Well, you could buy the collector's edition, which came with extra stuff, yeah.
No, I'm just talking the Wrath of the Lich King part.
You couldn't on opening night, and I think that was the issue with me. I did buy Burning Crusade, which was the previous expansion. I did download that, but for Wrath, you couldn't download it on day one, and I had to have it on day one, so that's why I went to the store.
Well, I think that was a huge mistake on Blizzard's part, because I think they could have had a ton more cash if they'd done it that way. But honestly, I think the reason you're going to see that a lot with the PC side is, again, like you said, Steam, and it's a much more definitively linked... I can't think of anybody who owns a computer but doesn't have it hooked up to the internet, whereas I know a lot of people, even in this day and age, who have consoles that aren't hooked into the internet. With computers, it was always an automatic thing. And also the thing about consoles is it is technically supposed to be just put the cartridge / cassette / disc
CD,
into it and play it, as opposed to any kind of installation thing like this whole PS3 installations thing. That's another podcast entirely. I am so horrified by it because it's a direction I don't want console gaming to go. And I think for that very reason, as long as consoles are consoles, I don't see how we can get by without there being a physical media, because otherwise we're not dealing with consoles anymore.
That's actually a good point. And that was always one of the deterrents for me for years that kept me from getting into PC gaming, was that, every PC was different, so a game was optimized to run on a certain set of specs, but if you somehow fell outside that range, you had to install drivers or troubleshoot why it wouldn't work, whereas consoles were always pretty much plug and play. So I've always preferred that. And it just seems to me that when you start getting into downloading and storing your games on there, I don't think it would turn into like PCs where you've got all these different specs because the consoles all have the same basic specs. But at the same time, it just feels like you're moving consoles in the direction of being PCs.
And really, who wants that? I mean, I'm one of that crowd who really never has my Xbox hooked up to hooked up to the internet. I mean, it's hooked up when I want to download a specific demo, but beyond that, it's offline. So, I mean, I can see a future where we have to have it hooked up because it wants to check online that I'm entitled to have a game. I mean, we're not that far once we start downloading everything to our Xboxes from having digital rights issues on a console, which is just a nightmare scenario.
And there's also something to be said about the physical packaging that the game comes in too.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, how many times do we go for that extra special Uber limited edition tin case?
Yep.
You know, special drawing by the artist with his left foot on a Sunday edition.
You know, I did get the, I actually, now that I'm thinking about the last game I bought, it was the special edition of Grand Theft Auto with the safety deposit box, which might explain why I haven't bought a game since I was so completely burned by that one.
I wanted to, because I do have my games up on a shelf, and I'm very proud of how they look, and I wanted to ask you guys some questions about how anal you are about your game packaging, and this is just some trivia, just to more or less to test if I'm crazy or not. Do you only buy first editions, so no greatest hits, no platinum editions, just because they would look weird among the other games on the shelf?
Yes, as much as possible. Now, sometimes you can't get around it, like when Fable on the Xbox, like they did the Platinum Edition version that had all the extra stuff in it, so you had to buy the Platinum Edition version, even if you had the original already. But for me, it's always the first edition. I own very few greatest hits games. I don't like the red thing on the PlayStation 2 labels or anything like that.
I don't know why they felt the need to make it's on every system, the greatest hits boxes look uglier than the regular boxes.
Because you're supposed to look like a doofus for not buying it.
No, I mean, the only platinum boxes I have are, for my Dead to Rights Uber collection, where
that was a platinum release, really?
Oh, it was.
Wow, I didn't know it sold.
No, because Dan made it so.
Exactly. Yeah. He single-handedly drove it to platinum status. All right, so
wouldn't surprise me at this point.
Let me ask you this then. All right, so I'm not alone there. What about this? Does it annoy you? It must annoy you when games come in like paper sleeves instead of proper cases like Wii Sports or Link's Crossbow Training. Do you end up making your own cases? And I actually bought a stack of 10 blank Wii cases, had them shipped to my house, and I printed out custom-made covers. There's an entire website, I think it's thecoverproject.org, devoted to this. Am I alone there, or do you guys do this too?
Oh, yes. My God. My 16-bit collection between my Genesis, because some of the earlier games, they had these really nice sort of VHS-style plastic cases that opened. But oh God, here comes the nerd again, my pretty much sealed Castlevania Bloodlines, where the only cut in the plastic was so I could surgically extract I'm going to stop now.
You're among friends.
I know, but the internet is out there ready to pounce. No, I still have that box and keep it clean. I still have Mega Man 1 in a mint condition box. But, I mean, I have also a bunch of packing boxes filled with these empty 16-bit boxes, which is such a pain, and the only reason I keep them is just because I know that somehow it'll increase the value, and I can see myself on Antiques Roadshow in about 50 years. And the guy said, well, it's like those trains when you were a kid, but you have the game and you have a mint-condition box that now all of a sudden you can retire with it. But otherwise, I'm so annoyed.
I knew there was going to be a point at which I became the least crazy person on the call because I have never done anything like that. I mean, here is the absolute extent of what I've gone to, which is one of my favorite NES games was the Golgo 13 game, and I actually went to eBay to get a manual and a case for my Golgo 13 game. And part of that was practical because the maps to get through all the dungeons were in the manual, and I didn't have a manual. But that is as crazy as I have ever gotten with the cases and manuals.
I have done the GBA cases and putting them in DS cases.
Oh yeah, I did all that.
I've done some of that. Now I still have a lot of original box GBA games, and I keep even the little plastic thing that the cartridge comes in. I even keep that in the box still, even after I've opened them. But yeah, I totally hate when they come in sleeves instead of an actual case, and we get a lot of those through review copies. Like Atlas always sends out stuff that comes it's a pre-release review copy that comes out in the sleeve.
Well, those Atlas games are even unlabeled usually most of the time from the ones I've seen.
Yeah, some of them aren't even labeled. So,
okay, first off, I don't want to hear any words against Atlas because I love those guys.
I
know they're great. The games are great. They just don't look like games.
It's just disappointing that I own a copy of Dual Hearts, which is really hard to find, except that it's a pre-release review copy, so it says Dual Hearts on the CD and everything, but it just came in a little plain white sleeve instead of an actual case.
I find something oddly charming about the fact that my copies of Operation Darkness and Zoid's Assault have like labels that someone made on a laser printer specifically for me. I like that.
Do you remember well, obviously you all remember the NES games used to come in the black sleeves?
Yes.
God, I love those.
And they used to have Nintendo branded on the front of them until they realized they weren't all made by Nintendo.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I lent a game. I think I lent Super Mario Brothers to somebody, and my copy of Super Mario Brothers had the red Nintendo stripe on the sleeve.
Okay.
And when he returned the game to me, he had it in a different sleeve, one without the red Nintendo stripe, and I wanted to kill him. But and I said, "This is the wrong sleeve." He's like, "What?" And I no matter how many times I tried to articulate it, he couldn't comprehend that there was a fundamental and critical difference between the red stripe sleeve and the plain black sleeve. And I believe our friendship ended shortly after that.
My God.
Well, that's just tragic, and I think Dr. Phil would have a few choice words for you, but I've got a very different story, which is I had Super Castlevania 4 on... Was it with me? Well, you all know what it is with me in Castlevania.
Sure.
Yes, we do.
No, Lord. I had Super Castlevania 4 on the Super Nintendo, and I thought I'd lost it. So I saved up my pennies and I went out and bought another copy of it. And do you guys remember when Nintendo changed the shape of the Super Nintendo cartridges when the Game Genie was around?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They used to have them where they would lock in perfectly, and then they had these ones that had this weird tapered plastic front where you could actually lift the cartridge straight out. So when I rebought Castlevania 4, it was in one of the new ones. Then I found my old one. So I actually have two copies of Castlevania 4, one that actually locks into the Super Nintendo, and one that I can just slip right out if I need it to.
Now, which one do you like better? You secretly like the original one better, don't you? And you resent you resent the newer one.
I actually do. And I think it has to do with
I have two copies of that game too, but I don't know if I've never compared mine to see if they're different. But one was a launch version, and one was a few years ago.
Well, if there's any conclusion that can be drawn from this conversation, it's that we're all absolutely nuts.
But I think even more important is that we as gamers are really keenly aware of the physical nature of our media. And I think to take that away from us, especially we console gamers, I think would be a huge mistake for the industry. I think it would be a huge mistake for any kind of historical or archival purposes. And I think culturally we'd be missing out on a whole lot because, we're all across North America. But the one thing we have in common is, like you said, Tim, we're all nuts because we just love... if we could just have an entire vault like Scrooge McDuck and fill it with all our games and we could dive and swim in it, I think we all would.
Well, I'm going to agree with you completely on that one because I got to say, the thing that I find craziest is, and this is something that everyone always neglects to think about, what happens to all the box cover artists?
Exactly.
That's a good point.
That's a lot of artists cutting out of work. And those guys do a great job.
I'm just against it because I think it takes gaming and sort of denigrates it and makes it into something that's like disposable culture instead of something worth holding on to. Where if you switch away from something physical that I can actually touch and keep and own forever if I so choose, into something that's more amorphous and vague, like something stored on a hard drive, I just think of how many things are going to get lost because of technological problems over the years, and that we'll never be able to get back. Whereas if the stuff is physical, we always have it. So I just think it's not cool for gaming to switch to something like that. I think games are worth owning and having and collecting and keeping and along with playing. So.
And hugging and taking to bed with you when you sleep at night to help you fall asleep.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's a very good note to end on tonight. Or, well, you could be listening to this in the morning. I can't say tonight. I think that's a great note to end on. Mike, that was a great topic. Really appreciate you bringing that to the table. Okay. And that...
I'm sorry. I didn't know if you. I didn't know if you were.
He took you by surprise.
It's all good. It humanizes us for the people. That'll do it for this week's episode of the GameCritics.com podcast. As always, send your comments, your thoughts, feelings, suggestions, hopes, and dreams to podcast@GameCritics.com. Do want to mention that you can now subscribe to the podcast via the iTunes Music Store. Just open up your iTunes. Yeah, I know. We're big stars now. Just do a search on Game Critics. If you like the show, write a review, tell your friends, tell your families. It's now easier than ever to get the GameCritics.com podcast. I want to thank our guests this week, Mike, Dan, and David. It's always a pleasure. You did such a great job. What a good show this was.
This was a lot of fun.
And that'll do it. For this edition of the GameCritics.com podcast, we will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Have a good one. I can't believe I said that.